Okay, so we have our first game, Beastmen against Wood Elves. We brought a good amount of skirmishing tools here, just a whole bunch of cavalry, some centaur throwing axes to deal with flyers, and also some tools to deal with boxes. We have archers, we have minotaurs with shields, and a decent expenditure of infantry. How well this does against the box, I'm not entirely sure. We might be in for some trouble. For the Wood Elf army, we thankfully do not have a box. And interestingly enough, it looks like a heavy infantry build coming from the Wood Elves, focusing primarily on Glade Guard for that ranged firepower. There's also some Glade Riders. We can keep away with our Centaurs. Not Centaurs. Nope, Centaurs. That is indeed their name. Our throwing axes are taking damage, so we will be pulling them back. Keep them safe. And as for our archers, they want to be shooting those nice, expensive, and exposed elite infantry of the Wood Elves. Minotaurs can charge in too, as long as they don't get bogged down by those spear units. We will also want to be making sure that we are casting our spells. Let's go ahead and do that. And now we can also use our cavalry to start engaging those Wood Elves. We also have a pendulum that we can throw down. And that was a pretty big mistake, letting our cavalry get caught up by all those wild riders. Turns out the cavalry is not very great versus wild riders, but at the very least we are beginning to buckle that Wood Elf front line. We want guard mode for these guys, and they can start shooting the those archers. Now, despite losing about half of our cavalry early on, it seems like we're in a pretty good position. There's not too much of a Wood Elf front line left, and the wild riders are now getting caught up on some spears here. They did actually manage to get away, and they are charging my centaurs. That's a little bit of a problem. And my archers are also getting compromised, but a chaos spawn summon should be enough to deal with that. Although it took them a while to get summoned. But now that they're up, my archers can now deal with that cav, wherever they are over there. Okay, engaging on spears too is good for me. And priority targets, that's just some eternal guard, but they are pretty clumped up, so we will throw our magic at them. And now that our cavalry has rallied, we can have them chase down some archers. I think the major threats now are probably actually, yeah, there aren't too many major threats at this point. I think we'll do okay in the infantry fight. And even if we do lose it over the long run, we will have we have our own cavalry, which can just cycle charge them down. So not too much of a problem, although I definitely don't want these guys to be dying to some eternal guard. So they'll need to pull back. And it also looks like I am getting my archers compromised now. A little bit of a problem, so I'll have to play careful for sure. We'll bring our Gorher to support the archers. And let's see, just trying to figure out what my priorities are. Oh, Jesus, Orion. That's why. Okay, so Operation Don't Die to Orion shall begin now. We have centaurs with throwing axes. We have some lords, but we're out of infantry, which are pretty important for bogging him down. But yeah, it turns out my single entity killing power is very low. All of my range units are now priority units that I'll have to be very careful keeping them safe. For now, they're just going to be playing keep away while I finish off the rest of the infantry. And I'll also really want to keep my lords away from Orion. Let's get that cavalry back so we can finish off the infantry. And let's once again take stock of the battlefield. See, there are some glade riders in the distance. We will need our archers for that too. Meanwhile, these Eternal Guard can just constantly get battered by that magic. And we can now start consolidating these guys now that the archers of the Wood Elves have been dealt with. See, I think my Ungor Raiders should outpace these, that Spear Infantry. And there we go, we see that they do manage to break away from them. And now begins the cycle charging. All of my range units are going to have their ammunition turned off. Specifically, so that they can deal with Orion. It looks like there's a spell coming down, though. Or maybe not. I'm not sure what was cast there. Let's see. These Glade Riders are going to be a little bit of a problem. Let's hope my archers can deal with them. And yeah, it looks like some hounds were casted. Thankfully, we managed to keep our cavalry safe. And all we got to do is finish off this spear infantry. After that, it's just ganging up on Orion with all of our missiles and our heroes. Let's see, that means we probably don't really have a use for our magic at this point, so we'll use it on what we can. Basically the only multi-model unit left, these Glade Riders, and as they break off, then we should be good. We have a bunch of archers and throwing axes to fight Orion. It will take place in the forest, which is a little bit non-optimal. But the Glade Riders are gone, and the final center engagement will begin. Let's see, oh, it looks like there's a spell coming in, so we will have to dodge. And let's see, it looks like we do lose... Oh, actually it does a lot less damage than I would have expected. Interesting. But we are beginning to lose our lords. So let's see, it looks like they do need support. We're going to bring in the majority of our infantry force. And everything is on us killing Orion at this point. We've lost our archers. A little bit of a misplay on my part. But we still have Centaur throwing axes. Our saving grace. And it looks like they're doing okay. Although, with the new DLC, Orion is getting a pretty nice buff. Oh, geez, those hounds. Orion is getting a pretty nice buff, so that this will be much harder. So, in the future, this won't be nearly as effective. Sorry, I'm just fixing my settings. Since that game was pretty well decided. Nice. Yeah, so pretty fun game there. Let's see, oh man, I have a lot of bots. Yeah, so that was a pretty fun game. You can see Orion actually did pretty well there. We didn't have a ton of tools to deal with him. And we definitely did a pretty big misplay. You can see my two Centaurs that engaged the Wild Riders. They lost quite handily there. Instead, I should have just used my mobility to play keep away. Yeah, I should have used my mobility to play keep away there, since the cavalry was very important there for clearing out all that infantry. But other than that, I think it went okay. Oh man, I totally forgot about the Minotaurs too. I'm not sure exactly what happened to them. They probably died on spears, which was a pretty big misplay on my part too. So lots of things to work on, but otherwise a nice game. So In this game, we're playing Wood Elves against Skaven. I think Clan Rictus, if I remember correctly. We've gone for a heavy ranged build. I know that this is pretty vulnerable to poison wind mortars, but we have a good number of units to snipe them out. Our Lord's a Way Stalker. We also have cavalry to chase them if they rout. For our opponent, it looks like he's gone for a heavy gun build, opting for actually rattling guns instead of Jezzails. So that puts him in a pretty bad position. There are Warp Lightning Cannons, which does give him a little bit of extra range, but we have Arrows of Kronos, and we already shut down one of the Warp Lightning Cannons, and our Way Watchers can also do pretty good at shutting down those rattling guns. Another volley should take care of them, although I think I might have clicked on those clan rats. No, I did not. But the rattling guns are holding. Little bit of a problem there, but with some repositioning, I think we should be good. Alright, our opponent giving us a little bit of BM. Just more the reason to actually defeat him. Now, this left flank is looking pretty exposed. It's good for us. And Jezzails are just firing into our Dryads. I'd say that's a pretty good position to be in. And as soon as our Arrows of Kronos are back, then we can... what's it? Then we can shut down that Warp Lightning Cannon. Let's see, looks like the Skaven ranged force is approaching. I'm not sure how I want to engage those Jezzails. They could definitely pose a problem here. I guess we do have our cavalry. And our melee troops are also advancing. So I suspect that should definitely help out. Yeah, actually that left flank is collapsing very hard. And as soon as we get our cavalry in the back, I think we're good. Since the fighting is starting now, I will get that Manticore summon out of the way. And we're just going to send it straight on top of those Jezzails. Meanwhile, our archers can definitely deal with just a few Skaven slaves. That's not a problem. And let's see. Yep, Manticore, you can just head on straight there. While our cavalry moves forward. I also see this, what's it? His Lord is looking mighty exposed. Ooh, actually, there's a good shot for Arrows of Kronos here. Random side note. Arrows of Kronos, very good at killing infantry if you shoot from the side. You can see it creates a small line of damage there. So it's very good if you're fighting against something like shielded infantry. But before I can even finish, the game ends. I guess collapsing in on that gun line was a little bit too much for our opponent. And we're able to walk away with a win. Nice. So he took a lot of Jezzails and rattling guns, but for this matchup, you definitely want poison wind mortars. They outrange Way Watchers, and they'll just be able to poke away at them while you sit back in your defensive formation. Yeah, and you know this many Jezzails, probably not the best idea if there aren't a whole ton of targets for them. You saw the Dryads were really just it just wasn't an efficient target for him to shoot. With about, what's it, 4 Jezzails, he took out about 1 unit of Dryads and 1 Glade Guard. So definitely not worth it there. Let's get into the build. We have a whole ton of anti-infantry and a bunch of mobility to chase off anything that routs. For our single entity killing, we have Ungor Raiders, and also some Chaos Spawn and Charging Cavalry. Although none of these guys are exactly specialists for killing single entities, except for maybe the Raiders. So I'm a little bit worried that we might die to something like Doom Wheels. For our caster, we have Transformation of Kadan. And actually, this might be what we need to kill all those single entities. So we'll make sure we use that very carefully. And then I think we'll be okay. Razor Gore Herd are going to have to be very careful, since they do rampage at the slightest amount of damage. And they're just going to be sitting behind the Skaven lines until about the mid game, when troops start getting a little bit lower. For our Skaven opponent, he has indeed brought a Doom Wheel, except this time mounted by Icket Claw. He also has some Warplock Jezzails shooting in on my Chaos Spawn, but that's not too much of an issue, as we could just continue advancing to get the fight going as soon as possible. Icket looks like he wants to pick a fight with my infantry. We will deny him that, and we're also going to pull back to make sure that we don't take too much AoE damage. Icket does manage to plow through some of my troops, however, but luckily for us, that charge does not do too much damage. Now, very importantly, if we do manage to get a surround on Icket, it does mean that we can get a what's it? Ooh, those triads. If we get a surround on him, we can start killing him with a Manticore summon. But right as I do that, he actually manages to escape. So a little bit of a problem there. We get our Razor Gore rampaged, but hopefully our Ungor Raiders will be able to help there. And you know what? I'm not actually liking my chances here too much. Specifically because we just let a bunch of our cavalry here get caught. Now we are going to continue to try to push through. We have one of our flanks, and we should be able to shut down those Jezzails. They now have Chaos Spawn on top of them, and ooh, a nice AoE spell from my opponent causes some problems. But our right flank is just doing so well, I think we might do good. Icket is taking a whole bunch of damage from this huge blob fight here. And the Rat Ogres are starting to run away there. Also on the left flank, the Skaven are getting a huge rout. And as long as we chase off all those troops, I think we'll be okay. Now my archers are getting shut down, so we'll have to be careful to keep them alive. And of course, the game is not won yet, although we are in a pretty nice position. Our opponent has focused pretty heavily on the Eshin units, which they actually do quite a bit of damage, so we'll have to be careful there. And I'm not sure exactly how this will play out. There are triads here that we can charge in the back, so we'll do that. And I think my next priority is going to be taking out that Plague Priest. Looks like some of our Ungor Raiders got routed. I'm not sure exactly where they are, but we'll need them to take out this Plague Priest. And it looks like, let's see, looks like we'll probably be fine. There are the Council Guard, but with a low HP Icket, I think we can probably just cycle charge them to death. Let's see, an interesting build from our opponent, but it looks like his lines just could not hold very long at all. There's also the Vikstrin's Death Squad, but we have so much of our cavalry left. I think we're good. Plague Priest is now routed, and now we can just begin the cycle charging of the Council Guard. Now's a good time to throw down a Flock of Doom 2, just because all these guys are clumped up. And with the Plague Priest dead, I'm not even sure there's any AoE that can be brought to punish us. So all that out of the way, we get a pretty easy win against the Skaven there. Not sure exactly why their lines collapsed so quickly, but I guess that's sort of just the nature of the matchup. If you look here, with two Rat Ogres, I guess he just didn't have enough to fight the cavalry. He did manage to catch quite a few centaurs on my left flank, which was definitely a problem. But almost immediately after, the right flank collapsed. And after that, we were able to shut down the Giselles and just continuously roll over them from there. Taking very good engagements. You can tell by my centaurs, almost 100 kills on each of them. Yeah, that just really caused a lot of problems for him. Also, his single entities, Icket Claw and the Plague Priest, took a lot more damage than I would have thought. So, I guess that's it. Yeah, pretty easy matchup for the Beastmen. Okay, so we are playing as the Wood Elves against Vampire Coast, a matchup that I enjoy very much. That can go multiple ways. Our opponent can go for a heavy gun build, in which case we have a ton of range units, or they could be rushing, in which case we have the ability to kite with mobile units like these Deepwood Scouts and Way Watchers. Of course, Scurvy Dogs are could cause some problems here, but with our Glady, we have Prey of Anathema to net them up. Especially good if we do get rushed. We also have a Beastcaster, Transformation of Kadon, which can actually goon out Noctilus very effectively. So if we do see Noctilus, I wouldn't be too worried there. Crabs, of course, will get shot up by Way Watchers, and Sirens will fall to our large amounts of magic damage. If our opponent goes for a ranged build, what we'll want to be sniping out are the Deck Gunners, as those guys will trade very effectively versus our Deepwood Scouts and Way Watchers. And then, yeah, after that, it's just pushing up with our Glade Guard and picking off any bombers and handguns. Once those guys are down, we'd be moving in with the Dryads, and after that, it should be game. So, yeah, very fun matchup. Lots of ways it can go. But I think this build should be pretty safe. Although the map is a bit small. If we do end up cutting back, we'll have to make sure we're putting in a lot of damage while we do so. For our opponent, they have 1,300 troops. Vampire Coast can go as far as about 800 troops. No, not 800. 1,800 troops. So, honestly, that's a pretty small army. I would expect probably maybe some artillery, maybe some crabs, but nothing we would be too worried about, as we do have Arrows of Kurnos. So let's see, we'll just deploy our leadership over here to help out our skirmishers. And I think we will be good. Hope you guys are ready for a pretty fun game here. Now, Wood Elves are not typically the pick you see against Vampire Coast, but I do feel that in their current state, Wood Elves are it's a very even matchup, I would say. Maybe slightly favored for Coast. But so far, I haven't found a Vampire Coast build that just dominates Wood Elves. I feel like it's a pretty good matchup, which, by the way, will only get better once the DLC releases. Having cheaper cavalry means that you really don't have to worry about Scurvy Dogs. And yeah, that's basically that's basically it. That's the biggest change for Wood Elves in this matchup. Just cheap cavalry to chase off dogs, and then they'll let you go even harder into archers, the nemesis of Vampire Coast. That is true, Manticore summons are extremely powerful, but that doesn't mean it's something that should not be used. It is simply just another tool in the belt of the Wood Elves. I am happy though that it is getting nerfed, since it was so dominant in the meta. Okay, our opponent is taking quite a while to set up their army, so I think I will just start up this battle. Just so that we don't have to waste too much of our time. Then I think, yeah, we'll be good. See, you think the lack of terror is the only big negative for Eagles? Probably. Do eagles have the same amount of AP and so on that that manticores have? I'm not sure. Oh, looks like our opponent has brought a pretty familiar build. Lots of deck gunners, lots of bombers. Okay. So, with a heavy anti-infantry build like this, or yeah, with a heavy ranged build like this, we basically want to be as aggressive as possible. So we're going to be moving up with our Deepwood Scouts and Way Watchers, and then yeah, our main focus is getting in range of those deck gunners. Let's see here, we are progressing, and you know what? We're going to throw down a Manticore Summon now. So as soon as these deck gunners are gone, we can begin kiting the coast, and then we'll be in a pretty nice position. We can now pull these guys back, bring in the Manticore, and it can cause a whole bunch of trouble to those troops. Let's see, some deckhand mobs are moving into my dryads. We can take that, as it is a good fight. And some scurvy dogs actually are giving me a little bit of trouble here. Shutting down my, actually, yeah, I can't think. They're shutting down some of my ranged troops. But we have a huge volley coming in from our Deepwood Scouts and Way Watchers, which, yeah, basically kill them. So there we go. That is the scurvy dogs dealt with. There's some zombies on the right flank that we can simply walk away from. And with the poison on our Glade Guard? No. What are they called? What are these guys called? Oh, Glade Guard, yeah. With the poison on our Glade Guard, we can slow down these zombies to basically a crawl. And then just continue to pummel them with arrows. Let's see, what are these? Night Terrors? They're not too much of a problem. And yeah, you can see here that our early aggressiveness is now beginning to pay off. Basically, we took a lot of damage to actually dive in on the deck gunners, but without them, Vampire Coast is not very scary. Of course, we know that bombers are very strong, but they're only strong if they're able to get their shots off. And you can see now, since they took so much damage from our archers on the kite, they really posed no threat at all this game. At this point, I'm very confident that we're able to win it, as now that we've managed to kite back the Vampire Coast front line, yeah, we're just in a very dominant position. We killed off all the scurvy dogs, and there was nothing left to deal with the archers. Yeah, and that's all you need to do to beat the Vampire Coast. Now I'm going to go into a little bit more explanation here, since this is a matchup that I practiced a lot. A lot of what happens with Wood Elf players is that they will often not play aggressive enough with a build like this, or they'll play too aggressive. What you need to do early on is you go very aggressive, shut down key targets like deck gunners and mortars. You're going to do that with your Manticore summons, your long-range archers, and arrows of Kurnos. And then immediately after these key targets are shut down, you play the kite game. You run away from stuff like bombers and handguns, and you focus down these scurvy dogs with very high priority. After that is done, all the threats to you are basically dealt with. You know, zombie bombers and handguns are useless against Way Watchers and Deepwood Scouts. And then, yeah, you're good to go. Just make sure that you don't play too aggressively, and then you run into bombers and die, let's say. And yeah, there you go. That's all you need to do to beat Vampire Coast. Now, of course, my opponent didn't play perfectly. He really sacrifices scurvy dogs, and he let his deck gunners get picked off. But that is the game. It's the dance between keeping your deck gunners safe and making sure that they do damage. So we're playing Beastmen against Tomb Kings. We've brought a pretty standard build stolen by Falcon's build list. And it consists of a lot of single entity killers. So that is the Minotaur great weapons. Oh geez, we're gonna have to kite with them. I mean dodge. We got Minotaur's great weapons and Chaos Spawn. Centaurs with throwing axes and razor gores. Basically a whole ton of AP. For our Lord, we brought Malagor, just because he's a great pick. And also 2 Bray Shamans to make sure that they don't get sniped out by Arkin the Black and his vicious Spirit Leeches. Okay, looks like he threw down a summon to stall us out a little bit. Pretty good play by him. Oh hey, Tomb Guard. That is a very nice target for our AoE, you can see. Nets us almost 200 gold immediately. But yeah, so we brought a lot of things to shut down constructs. Now for our opponent, he's gone for a pretty heavy ranged build. And what we want to do is just to shut them down as quickly as possible. Looks like he's trying to snipe out Malagor. But Malagor has a bunch of missile resist. I think that should be no problem at all. Now you can see my spear units have opted to trace around the flanks. This is because, as you can see now, the Ushapti will be trying to escape to the flanks. And by bringing these spears backwards, it means that I am able to get the spears in on top of Ushapti, which is a very good situation since usually the Tomb Guard infantry are able to stop any of my Centaurs from engaging. So getting infantry in there is a much puts me in a much better place. So there we go. And I'd say this is basically as good as it gets for me, with all of the ranged assets of the Tomb Kings shut down. It means that all we really have to do is make sure that we don't die to constructs like this Sphinx. The Ushapti really have nowhere to run at this point. If they try to leave their infantry group, they should just get shut down. And with these throwing axes, as long as they don't die to this Ushapti summon, it means that we can just throw axes into the Sphinx into the late game, and then we'll be good. We also have some Razor Gore herd that we forgot. But you know what? Even though they are forgotten, it means that they're at full HP. So if we need them to deal with the Sphinx, they will be there for us. Let's see, it looks like some Tomb Guard here are holding up our infantry. You can actually position the Bray Scream pretty well to take care of them. You can see the edge of the Bray Scream is about where you want to position it. Position your attack anyways. Since it goes a little bit further than where the indicator shows. Let's see. Oh, it looks like we've done a little bit of a bad job letting our lords get one of our heroes get caught out, which means we're actually down a Manticore summon. A little bit painful here, but not the worst for sure. Malagor is still healthy. And I think, yeah, we're just going to continue positioning our throwing axes to kill the Sphinx. In fact, it's so important that these guys kill the Sphinx. We're going to take them off fire at will. And we're going to be focusing on microing these guys for the rest of the battle, as that Sphinx sniping out my lords and heroes is probably the win condition for the Tomb Kings at this point. And as long as we don't mess that up, I think we'll be just fine. A little bit of cycle charging too from our Razor Gores can't hurt. And that should be able to take out the Tomb Guard. We also still have, let's see here, 18 models of Chaos Spawn. So at this point, I think there's basically nothing the Tomb Kings can do. Especially since they should be running out of infantry right about now. You can see the Wild's caster for Beastmen. Very effective. for shutting down infantry. Tomb Kings, of course, with only 50 armor, not enough to resist a lot of magic. And there we go. The Sphinx is now shut down. It's just Ark in the Black, but he's not nearly a good enough combatant, and we should expect him to be going down rather quickly. In fact, he's already crumbling. That's army losses, and that is game for the Beastmen today. Nice. There we go. So cool. Not too bad. I think our opponent, he might have brought a little bit too many range units. They didn't get a whole ton of value that game. I guess they did kill my Minotaurs, but after they got surrounded, there wasn't much he could do. For this game, we are playing as the Wood Elves, matched up against the mighty Skaven. A pretty bad matchup for the Wood Elves, as I know it. I know for sure Zyphos feels that is how it plays out. But and yeah, because of that, we brought a little bit of a crazy build today. A bunch of Glade Guard, and a Tree Man, with the intent of of having the benefits of a rush, and also the benefits of a ton of range units. So we're basically going to be progressing as quickly as possible to try to shut down the Poison Wind Mortars and probably the Jezzails using the Tree Men and Orion. And then after that's done, we're going to, I guess, kite with the Glade Guard. Ugh, oh man, this feels bad. But there's a lot of potential here for us to do a lot of nice micro tricks. For example, dodging Poison Wind Mortars. When these guys are spread out so thin, there is a chance that the mortars will miss if you dodge on time. And we also have Manticore summons, which of course will help us in just about every situation. Oh man, yeah. We're just going to play very aggressively. Hopefully we're able to shut down the Skaven guns. You know what? Maybe I might have wanted more Starfire shafts too, since the weapon teams are armored. But if we do see a sort of heavy monster build from our opponent, that could be good. Like this many Glade Guard will do very well against Rat Ogres, for example. And in this matchup, you usually do see quite a few Rat Ogres. So I think we maybe will be okay. We'll see. For our opponent, he has gone for a very defensive style with rattling guns again. So this is the second time today we have seen our opponent take rattling guns. I guess the rattling guns are the new Jezzails or something. Personally, I would say rattling guns before much worse than Jezzails, unless you're getting rushed by some sort of rattling guns are much worse than Jezzails, unless you get rushed by monsters, which actually in this case we have a Tree Man. So maybe our opponent, knowing us too well, has suspected that, and will actually be able to put a little bit of damage there. Our Tree Man is also taking a lot of damage because we haven't been dodging too effectively with him. And he's actually slowing down my rush a bit. But, you know, live and let learn. And oh wow, it looks like we got some death. What are these called? Something mortars? Avalanche mortars, there we go. Shooting down my Dryads will definitely cause some problems. But that is just a front line of Skaven Slave Spears. So if we just charge in as quickly as possible, maybe it won't be too much of a problem. Let's see, our caster can also move in, and Orion, you want to charge in as quickly as possible. Let's throw down a wind spell over there and continue to move in with our Glade Guard. I think one priority target is probably killing those rattling guns and just hoping that the avalanche mortars don't cause too many issues. Let's see, I guess we can also shoot Skaven slaves. See, there's some plague monks too there that are causing some problems, but you know what, maybe Orion will be able to shut down the guns by himself. If that's the case, then I think we'll be okay. We also have the Tree Man charging in valiantly, and we can also begin summoning some manticores. So there we go, Orion's doing pretty well. Storm Vermin can eat some spells. The Dryads can continue to flank. You can also use our Wild Riders to flank. They should do pretty well. See, Dryads are winning the fight. That's a unit of summoned plague monks. Probably not worth it to shoot them. And there we go. Orion's doing pretty well. Our Manticore can now deal with Lord Squolk. Meanwhile, Tree Man, your job is to do the same thing Orion is doing. And to cause chaos in the back line. He's just going to charge right on in. Hopefully get that terror going. We also have Dryads in the mix. And our Wild Riders can now chase off these guns. So all in all, a pretty good position to be in, I must say. We're going to throw down another Manticore summon. This would not really be... Actually, we did use a Flock of Doom. So I guess, even after the nerfs, this is about how good Manticore summons will be. Which is honestly pretty terrifying. So we're going to use that. Throw it on top of the Squolk. And there we go. There we go. Wow. Wow, we pulled it through. I'm not sure exactly how we managed to pull it through. But if I had to guess, it would be because our opponent didn't have enough Poison Wind Mortars. Rattling guns are good, but they didn't do a whole ton of damage. The Plague Claw Catapult too hit some of my Glade Guard, but I'd say it only just paid for itself. I really wonder how this would have changed if these 4 units were replaced with 4 mortars. Probably would have been a pretty bad day for us. But instead, you did get avalanche mortars. They got 94 kills. I only wish I was able to see their damage in gold. But alas, the update is not here yet. For our build, the Tree Man, he sort of just got shot by Warp Lightning the entire game. But he did actually make it to the Skaven backline and helped in routing off a bunch of the troops. Although, honestly, this build, I would not copy it. I think the Skaven build probably just wasn't as optimized as it could have been. And sadly, that is what led to their downfall. But GG to them. You fought valiantly. As the Beastmen versus the Dark Elves, we've brought Mogre, of course, because he's just an amazingly good lord. And a bunch of Bestigors. I feel like these guys are a very uncommon pick for the Beastmen. I've really only ever seen them against the Dowie. But I want to see how well they do versus the Dark Elf Infantry today. We brought Occam's Mindrazor to boost their damage by 1,000,000. So hopefully, right as they get the charge in, we will be able to buff them up like crazy and they'll just roll over all of the Dark Elf units. That's the hope anyways. We're going to see if that plan has any merit in just a second. I think all my hotkeys are set and we're good to go. These guys just need guard mode. And yeah, I think we're good. Our opponent has bought a force of 700. Pretty standard by elf standards. And it looks like he has gone for a War Hydra. Terror, of course, very strong versus Beastmen. And a bunch of Dark Shards with a very small mobility force of just some Cold One Knights. I'm already feeling pretty confident. And I'm sort of wondering where his money went. In fact, if I had to guess, I'd say his money went into a bunch of shades. So let's see, you can see on average each of these troops count for 70. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 plus the Cold One Knights means that, okay, yeah, never mind, he doesn't have that many shades. So we don't have to worry about that. He actually has very few ranged units, and he's taking a position near the white line. Of course, this gives you an advantage because Beastmen cannot easily flank, but any troops that route off the map will be off the map almost instantly. Also, by the way, I am seeing now a lot of his money went into the Blackguard of Nagorond, which, you know, a pretty good choice from the Dark Elves, but we have Penumbral Pendulum, which should do very well there, especially if overcast. I'd also very much like to see how the Bestigor herd do versus them. And oh man, a breath attack from the Hydra, putting in some pretty good damage. I don't think there's much to skirmish here, so let's just get the fighting underway. Some dark shards are moving up. I think they're a little bit out of position. So yeah, you can see they're already running before they can even get a shot off. We're going to sacrifice our harpies here to get a charge in from our Centaurs. And I think that should be able to rout off the Cold One Knights pretty easily. Some Witch Elves are moving in. We'll send some archers towards them. And now it is simply us charging in with the Bestigors. Let's throw down that Occam's Mind Razor for the crazy amounts of damage. We got Bestigors charging in. And we can also use our Chariot Lord to, to start shutting down those range units. If you guys hear the phone, my apologies. Now, let's see, let's move these Centaurs back. Let's turn our archers to kill that Hydra. And let's get a Chaos Spawn summon to start hurting those guys. Ooh, Hydra's moving towards my archers. We'll have to run back with them. And you know what? This looks like a pretty nice time to cast Pendulum, if I've ever seen one. There we go. Doing a lot more damage than my Bestigors, that's for sure. Taking out almost a full unit of Blackguard. I think that worked out pretty well for us. Although what isn't working out pretty well is Malekith killing Mogr. He has high missile resist, but he doesn't do too well versus in the one-on-one fight. So we're going to pull him back and bring in our mobility to try and save Mogr. Let's see, there we go. They move in and he gets to safety. We'll also really want to keep an eye on that War Hydra to make sure that it doesn't kill us. That doesn't come back from routing. Those Corsairs are causing us some trouble there though, but they are in a loose formation. Hopefully we'll be able to just charge them to death. As for our Shaman, he's doing a nice job shutting down the Dark Shard. Some of them have rallied in the distance there though, so we will need to oh dear, let's see, chase that War Hydra. Yeah, we're going to send Harpies over there to them. And let's see, I think really the main threats here now is just Malekith. Blackguard are a little bit of a problem, but not too much. Not too much. We can just charge them to death. These Witch Elves too are also being a little bit annoying, but thankfully they haven't been able to free that Hydra up, so that's a blessing at least. Let's see here, Mogr continuing to get beaten up by Malekith. We'll have to just keep running away with him, and then he should do okay. But man, this guy, he is on a quest to kill Mogr, I must say. And not a bad decision by him either, as killing Mogr will give me some pretty bad leadership effects. Ooh man, and a pretty nasty AoE coming in too. But at the very least, Mogre is regenerating, which means, yeah, he'll be pretty hard to kill. But our opponent, persistent as ever, charging in once again, throwing down a blade storm. Thankfully, it goes in the direction away from my troops, but it looks like it might be looping back. And okay, nice, it disappears before it can get any damage. So nice. At this point, it's just killing Malekith. There's not too many Witch Elves left, and these Blackguard can't really move without getting cycle charged by my chariot. You can see there, spread out in a thin formation. There's not much they can do. We can also throw down an Occam's Mind Razor in just a second, which will give Malekith a hard time for sure. Blackguard getting shut down. And you know what? Just to really make sure Malekith gets shut down, we're going to bring our archers over to him. And just shoot him to death. While Malagor cackles in the distance. A safe few meters away from Malekith. Although, man, that fight is going on for a while. Let's pull out the Centaur so we can start cycle charging him. And in just a second, we'll also be able to use Occam's Mind Razor. Although it turns out overcasting it actually costs a lot of winds of magic, so maybe not worth it. And instead, we'll probably just be using pendulums on the Blackguard. Ooh, geez, big AoE coming in from Malekith. Geez, almost routes off all of my Centaurs. That isn't good. And I think it's probably a big misplay on my part. You know what? Let's throw down that overcast Occam's Mind Razor. And then hopefully Mogre can just take credit by killing Malekith here and now. Which he does. He actually routes him off. So there we go. A little bit of a misplay from me, clumping up. And also letting my chariot die. But thankfully, we managed to pull through. That got a little bit sketchy at the end there. Yeah. When it does come down to single lords left, do not clump up. You can see Malekith on his on just his Cold One mount managed to get 234 kills. I probably misplayed pretty badly here. Also, for my comments on Vestigors, I'd say, yeah, it looks like there's a reason why people don't take them. They got a surprisingly low amount of kills, despite getting buffed up and taking pretty nice fights. I'm not sure what happened here. As for the War Hydra, we saw chasing it off properly was very important. And also Blackguard were hardier than I expected. I would have just used more pendulums instead, if I knew that they would be this effective against the Beastmen. Also, I think I forgot about my hounds somewhere. Something about this high HP tells me that I forgot about them. Also, wow, Witch Elves with 200 kills too. Wow. Pretty nice game. And a little bit sketchy. I think we probably could have played better on both sides, but whatever. For this match, we're playing as the Wood Elves against Skaven. Similar to what we did last time. Taking a million Glade Guard. Except this time we've brought Durthu along with a few more of his tree buddies. So that's Dryads, that's Treekin, a Tree Man, and the man himself, Durthu. These guys are just going to plow through the front line and try to shut down those weapon teams. Meanwhile, our front line of Dryads will be killing clan rats and Skaven slaves alike, while our Wild Riders loop around the back to make sure that none of the high priority targets come back from routing. All that out of the way, I think we just have to position our Glade Guard properly, get ready to dodge some mortars, and then hopefully take out a win from the Skaven. It's generally thought of as a pretty bad matchup for the Wood Elves, but a lot of the players on Quick Battle don't bring fully optimized builds, so I feel like we have a pretty decent chance here. Ooh, let's see. Right, Optimus Fine. I'll read that comment later, but I have now grown wary to your messages, and I refuse to speak them aloud. Although I think that pun might have been lost on me. Oh nope, it's not lost on me. I got it. Oh dear, I shouldn't have read it. Anyways, we're about ready now. Our opponent, numbering in the 1500 unit count, pretty large, I must say, which might actually be a problem for us. If he decided to rush, this build would probably be pretty bad. So, fingers crossed that that's not the case. Although, you know, we do have Durthu and a Tree Man. So, if it does come down to a rush, I think these guys would be happy to meet the Skaven in battle. Our opponent is taking a little while to deploy, so, you know, he does have a lot more units than me, but I think it is about time we start battle. Just to make sure that we're not waiting for too long. Also, wow, tons of viewers today. Hello, everyone. How's it going? Surely, there has to be some new people here. Oh, hey, Glyph Total War. Nice to see you. I missed your comment from earlier. Is this the only condition of getting EA? Yeah, you need 500 followers, and then you need to ask for to become a partner. Other than that, that's basically all you need. Now, back to the game. We got nothing. Our opponent has yet to show themselves. Surely it can't be a full Eshin army if we're talking 1500 Skaven. And it looks like that's not the case. He has indeed brought a defensive style, opting for Plague Claw catapults. Maybe he doesn't have the DLC with Snicketch, and he couldn't bring any poisoned wind mortars. Looks like that might actually be the case, as yeah, it looks like he definitely got Icket Claw. That's why we see the teeth breakers. But yeah, just a pretty standard defensive formation, except minus all of the poison wind mortars. Now I am holding up my advance just a little bit, since we're waiting for those Glade Guard to reach us. But with a little bit of back and forth dodging, we are able to make sure that we take basically no damage on our Glade Guard. Doing it in groups is generally the best way of avoiding damage. And yeah. Oh, he actually did land a hit. But yeah, you know, just some gentle pulling back and forth usually works. Although now that he's focusing those Dryads, we are beginning to take a little bit more damage. Now, with our army finally in position, we can begin our charging with the Tree Men. There are the Teeth Breakers, but I don't think they have enough firepower to take out this squad of trees. Really, only if we saw something like Iksha's Triads, I would be a little bit more worried. On the right flank, we have the Gutter Runners. Now, what's it? Now getting shot up by our archers means that they shouldn't be too much of a problem. And yeah, we can just march in with our trees. Let's see, a unit of Plague Monks gets summoned. I'm just going to start shooting them up now, since if they do turn towards my range units, they would be a little bit of a problem. Meanwhile, the right flank is getting charged up by what's this? Icket Claw? Yeah, Icket Claw. But he's meeting quite a bit of resistance from my range units, and wow, we actually managed to get him routed. Good for us. I guess our opponent just could not handle the micro. We also got Sword of Death on that huge blob there, doing a lot of damage. Works out very well for us, and we can also get a heal down. Teeth Breakers are now shut down by our Tree Man at full HP too. Means that Skaven might actually be running out of options to deal with our tanky tree units. Honestly, this is looking very good. as our Glade Guard shut down the Gutter Runners once again. And Durthu continues to fight the Masses of Skaven, taking very little damage, especially since we have a lot of healing that we can throw down. There we go. Another unit of clan rats is routed off. We have our Glade Riders on standby to chase them. And you know what? I think we can just close this out by finishing off the leadership. Our Glade Guard can focus down the Plague Priest. Our Tree Man is continuing to do his job. Our Glade Riders are doing good. And, ooh, it looks like we do have to worry about our Spell Singer not dying. So we'll throw down a final heal and bring her to safety before that assassin kills her. Nice. Just checking up on my Glade Riders again. That's a unit of shattered clan rats, so we'll bring them in to kill Plague Claw catapults next. And you know what? Let's just throw down that second Manticore summon. Why not? Let's see. Wow, it looks like those Plague Claw catapults are really just not hitting at all. That is probably why you usually see Poison Wind Mortars. But oh no, it looks like our Tree Man actually got pulled off the Rattling Guns for a second. We'll make sure to move him back on top before he gets shot to death. And then move in Durthu to kill off that assassin. It looks like, really, we've just had no problems this game. Our Glade Guard have been able to shoot unimpeded. Our Glade Riders have only taken one casualty. And our Tree Men have been able to fight for the whole game. So nice. Another win in the bag for us. We'll save that screenshot and go over some analysis. Of course, Durthu and the Tree Man combined were yeah, they were just unimpeded the whole game. I would recommend maybe more Giselles on the Skaven front, and especially some Rat Ogres. Their Rat Ogres bring AP, and they'd be a bit more of a threat to the Tree Men than just a single unit of Rattling Guns. If you do have the DLC, I would recommend replacing the Plague Claw catapults with Poison Wind Mortars. You can see here that my Glade Guard are at basically full HP despite getting shot at for the whole game. Of course, dodging helps with that too, but yeah, Poison Wind Mortars, much better. As for the Glade Guard, yeah, Poison Wind Mortars. I was already talking about that. Whoops. And for the Wild Riders, Giselles can make sure that they can't just camp your back line. So yeah, interesting build from this Skaven, but once again, probably not meta, and I would not recommend copying this build, although it is extremely fun. Yeah. I should have said that after I started recording, but anyways. With all of those games out of the way, I think we should be good for today. If anyone here wants to continue watching stuff like this, I stream Mondays, Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Fridays. You can tune in on YouTube or Twitch if you follow or sub. So thank you very much for anyone who's already done that, and I will see you guys on later today for the tournament. But stream-wise and quick battle-wise, I'll see you on Thursday. Thank you and bye-bye.